At 35,000 feet, Taylor Swift's private jet glided smoothly through the night sky. The cabin was filled with quiet laughter and the soft clink of champagne glasses. Taylor sat across from Travis Kelce, relaxed, glowing from a weekend spent with his family. Everything felt safe, ordinary, unshakable. Then the first jolt hit. Just a small bump at first, enough to make everyone glance up, grip an armrest, then smile it off. Planes hit turbulence all the time, but the second jolt wasn't small. It hit like a punch from nowhere. Taylor's glass slid across the table and shattered. The cabin lights flickered. Every smile vanished. Then came the pilot's voice. Tight, clipped, not the calm, confident tone they were used to. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing severe turbulence. Please fasten your seatbelts immediately. This is not a drill." Taylor's pulse raced. She fumbled for her belt, hands trembling, heart pounding against her ribs. Then, without warning, the plane dropped again. Hard. Her body lifted off the seat, gravity turning traitor. The sound of glass breaking, gasps, and someone's scream filled the air. Maybe it was hers. Across the aisle, Travis's eyes met hers, wide, terrified, before he unbuckled, lunging toward her seat. Before Taylor could even tell him to stay put, Travis was beside her, sliding into the seat and fastening his belt with one hand while grabbing her trembling fingers with the other. "I'm not sitting over there," he said firmly, his voice shaking. "If something happens, I'm next to you." The jet lurched again, this time harder. The lights dimmed, the engines roared, and the entire cabin rattled like a toy in a storm. In the cockpit, the pilots' voices came through faintly, professional but tense. "We're losing altitude." "How much?" 2,000 feet in the last minute. Taylor froze. The words "losing altitude" echoed through her like ice water. They weren't just shaking anymore. They were falling. The next drop ripped a scream from her throat. Travis pulled her into his arms, wrapping himself around her as if he could shield her from gravity itself. "It's okay," he whispered, though his voice trembled. "It's okay. I've got you. We're going to be okay." But they didn't know that. Nobody did. Paine was whispering prayers under her breath. The security guards sat white-knuckled, their stoic faces now masks of fear. The plane shook violently again. Another crash, another cry. It felt endless, like the sky itself was trying to tear them apart. Taylor buried her face in Travis's chest, clutching him as if he were the only solid thing left in the world. And in that moment, when life hung by a thread, the truth broke free from her lips. "I love you," she whispered against his shirt, her voice raw and desperate. "Travis, I love you so much." He pressed his lips to her hair. "I love you too. God, Taylor, I love you so much. You're it for me. You're everything." Whew. Turbulence didn't stop. It grew worse, tossing the plane like a leaf in a storm. Taylor clung to Travis, her knuckles white, her breath coming in shallow bursts. She could hear things crashing around them. Glass, luggage, someone crying. Every sound felt distant, as if the world outside their embrace no longer mattered. The pilot's voice came over the intercom again, strained but steady. "We're going to try to climb above the storm system. Please remain secured. It's going to be rough." Rough didn't begin to describe it. The jet pitched, rolled, and dropped so violently that Taylor's stomach twisted. The sound of metal creaking filled her ears. For a second, she was sure the plane would split in half. She could taste fear, sharp, metallic, electric. Then, amid the chaos, something inside her cracked open. Maybe it was panic, or maybe it was truth clawing its way out. She looked up at him, tears streaking her face. "Travis," she gasped, "there are things I never said. Things I should have said." "Then say them," he urged. "I'm sorry," she cried. "I'm sorry I made you sign that prenup. I'm sorry I ever doubted you. I'm sorry for every time I put my career before us. For every time I made you feel like second place. Travis cupped her face in both hands, his thumbs brushing away her tears. "None of that matters," he said, his voice breaking. "The only thing that matters is this. Us. Right now." She nodded, sobbing, the words bursting out of her before she could stop them. "I want to marry you. Not in 6 months. Not with 1,000 people watching. I want to marry you as soon as we land." Travis stared at her, then smiled through his own tears. "Yes," he said softly. "God, yes. The moment we land." The jet jolted once more, but this time it felt different. Steadier, as if the sky itself was finally loosening its grip. Then came the voice everyone had been praying for. "We've climbed above the storm. The worst is over. Expect light turbulence for the next 10 minutes. We're diverting to Louisville for an emergency landing." For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then the cabin erupted with soft, shaky laughter, tears, prayers whispered into trembling hands. Paine laughed through her sobs. One of the guards muttered, "I can't believe we made it." But Taylor and Travis didn't move. They stayed, locked together, arms tangled, faces pressed close, still half afraid that letting go would make it all come crashing down again. "I thought we were going to die," she whispered. "Me too," he said, kissing her forehead. "But we didn't. We're here. We're okay." They sat that way for the rest of the flight. Seatbelts fastened, bodies pressed together. No one told them to move. No one reminded them of protocol. Everyone on that jet knew they had survived something that stripped life down to its rawest truth. When the wheels finally touched the runway, the landing was so smooth it felt unreal. The engines quieted, the cabin lights steadied, and for the first time in what felt like forever, the air was still. The pilot emerged from the cockpit, pale and sweating. "I'm so sorry about that, Miss Swift," he said. "That was the worst turbulence I've seen in 20 years. We hit a microburst, a downdraft the radar couldn't detect, but you're safe now." Taylor reached out, her voice trembling but full of gratitude. "Thank you for bringing us home." Outside, on the cold tarmac under the harsh lights of the Louisville hangar, Taylor and Travis stood together, just breathing, alive, shaken, and forever changed. "Did you mean it?" Travis asked quietly. "About getting married right away?" Taylor looked up at him, eyes glistening. "I meant every word." The January air bit at their skin, but neither of them cared. Taylor reached for his hands, still trembling, and held them tightly. The hangar lights painted their faces in gold and silver, the aftershock of fear still flickering behind their eyes. "Your team will lose their minds," Travis said softly. "Tree's probably already having one." "I don't care," Taylor whispered. "We almost died today, and all I could think about was that I'm not your wife yet, that if the plane went down, you'd just be my fiancé." Her voice cracked. "That felt wrong. I don't want to waste another day." He brushed a tear from her cheek. "You want to get married here? In Louisville?" "I want to get married wherever we can make it happen," she said. "Tomorrow. This week. I don't care." Travis smiled, something tender and fierce lighting his face. "Then let's do it." Just then, Tree turned toward them, her phone still in her hand, mid-call. "I'm sorry, what?" Taylor's voice was steady now, sure. "We're getting married, soon. Really soon. Can you make that happen?" Tree blinked like she hadn't heard right. "Taylor, that's impossible. You need a license, a venue, witnesses, family." "Then we'll do it in Vegas," Taylor said, her tone calm but resolute. "There's no waiting period in Nevada." "Vegas?" Tree nearly dropped her phone. "You want to get married in Vegas? Taylor Swift, the woman who plans world tours down to the second, wants a Vegas wedding?" Taylor looked at Travis, then back at Tree. "Yes," she said simply, "because we almost died today, because life is short, and because I don't want to wait anymore." Tree stared at them for a long moment. Then her expression softened. "Okay," she said at last. "If you're serious, I'll make the calls." Taylor squeezed Travis's hand. "We're serious." 4 days later, under the golden Nevada sun, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce stood in a small, elegant chapel tucked away from the noise of the Strip. It wasn't one of the kitschy, Elvis-themed places tourists flock to. Paine had somehow pulled off a miracle, finding a quiet, beautiful chapel that felt sacred and secret. Their families had flown in that morning. Jason and Kylie Kelce with their kids, Donna and Ed Kelce still wiping away tears of disbelief, and Taylor's parents, Andrea and Scott Swift, who couldn't stop smiling through their shock. No media, no cameras, no screaming fans, just the people who mattered most. Taylor wore a simple white dress she'd picked up the day before in Nashville, soft silk that moved like water when she breathed. Travis wore a tailored suit from his closet. Nothing fancy, nothing planned. And yet, it felt perfect. The officiant, a kind woman with a gentle voice, smiled warmly at them. "Taylor and Travis have written their own vows," she said. "Taylor, would you like to go first?" Taylor took a deep breath, holding Travis's hands. "4 days ago, I thought we were going to die," she said, her voice trembling. "And in those moments, I didn't think about my music or my career or the future. I thought about you, about every second we've spent together and everyone we almost lost. I realized there's no perfect time to love someone, just now. So, I'm marrying you today because you're my home. You're my safety. You're my everything." Travis blinked hard, tears glimmering in his eyes. "I'm not as good with words as you," he said softly, "but I'll try. You changed me, Taylor. You made me want to be better. And when that plane started falling, I wasn't scared for me. I was scared for you, for the thought of a world where I'd never get to spend my life showing you how much I love you. So, I'm marrying you because I don't want to waste another second." The officiant smiled through her own tears. "By the power vested in me by the state of Nevada, I now pronounce you husband and wife." Travis pulled Taylor close, kissing her as the small chapel erupted in applause. Wyatt's tiny voice piped up from the front row, "Finally!" Everyone laughed, the sound echoing like music. The celebration that followed was nothing extravagant, just family gathered in a quiet restaurant tucked away from the crowds. A private room, a long table filled with laughter, stories, and disbelief that the impossible had actually happened. Andrea Swift raised her glass and smiled at her daughter. "I still can't believe you pulled this off," she said. 4 days from decision to wedding. Taylor laughed softly, her cheeks flushed. "Neither can I, but it feels right. It feels like the most right thing I've ever done." Scott leaned forward, his voice gentle. "That turbulence really scared you, didn't it?" Taylor didn't hesitate. "It terrified me. For those few minutes I thought we were going to crash, and all I could think about was everything I hadn't said, everything I hadn't done. I kept waiting for the perfect time to get married, but there is no perfect time. There's just now, and now felt right." Under the table, Travis reached for her hand and squeezed it. "Best decision we ever made," he said. And she smiled. A soft, knowing smile that said yes. It was, later that night. Back in their hotel suite, they lay in bed. Wedding rings still gleaming under the city lights spilling through the curtains. The air smelled faintly of champagne and roses, and for the first time in days, they were utterly calm. "We're married," Taylor whispered, still sounding like she was trying to believe it. "We're married," Travis said, grinning as he pulled her closer. "Your teammates are going to lose it when they find out." "Let them," she laughed. "I married you in Vegas. That's the headline I want." He traced circles on her hand, his voice quiet. "Do you regret it? Not having the big wedding?" She looked at him, really looked at him, and smiled. "No, this was perfect. No cameras, no pressure, just us. That's what love should be." He chuckled softly, leaning close. "Mrs. Kelce," he said, testing the name on his tongue. Taylor smiled, her eyes glowing. "I like the sound of that." 3 months later, they would hold a grand reception. A dazzling celebration with friends, music, and speeches. But deep down, they both knew the real wedding had already happened in that little Vegas chapel. Born not out of planning or perfection, but out of fear, truth, and love that refused to wait. At 35,000 feet, they almost lost everything. Instead, they found what truly mattered, now, always.